Okay, I think this is this function here is backwards, and I'm going to explain why. So in here I have my treasure chest room, and I run up to here and I open up the treasure chest, and it says you picked up the unbelievable rompers of latex rubber, which is fine. But the problem I got though is my random item generator can only generate from these three lists, which is no good. So what I really should do is I should actually invert this and say, okay, my random item is actually from, and then I specify the lists. So the way to do that is I need to, because what I want to do is I want to have my random item generator is to generate a series of random items from a specific collection. So it just so happens these are the trouser collection. So I'm going to create another class. Where's my class? So here's my scripts in here, and I'm going to create another script here called item RPG item collection. So RPG item collection, and I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to reload that, and I am going to end up with RPG item collection. Now my RPG item collection is going to be a base class, but it is going to take in a function. Now that function is going to be this get random item function. So my get random item function is no longer going to have this. It's actually going to have string adjectives, string item name, string ending. Okay, so I'm going to comment this out for just now because I want oh sorry, it's adjective, because I want this to only do this random selection thing. That's all I want it to do. I don't want to have this in here because I want to be able to choose different collections. That's what my goal is. So I'm going to have this function here do those different collections, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to pass that function off into my random item generator collection-y type thing. Now my collection-y type thing is my RPG collection is going to be pick random item. So it's going to be string pick random item, and then it's going to take in my function. So my function is going to be it's going to take in these three parameters, which are arrays, and then this is going to be random picker. Okay, and I am going to use system, and I'm going to have three. I want them to be public, so I want to have public string adjectives, public string item names, public string, and then that's going to be endings. And my pick random item is just going to return whatever random picker says, random picker, and then I'm going to specify the arguments. So in this case, I have to make this, oh yeah, it's got to return a string. Oops. So it takes in these three parameters and it returns a string. So my random picker is going to return it back from adjectives, item names, endings. And again, our random picker doesn't need to know what this function does. In fact, we're going to create a random one, and this makes it easy for you to test, and this is what I'm trying to get to in just a sec. So I have my RPG item collection, okay, and maybe I want to have a name for this as well, so public string collection name, something like that, okay, so whatever the collection name is. So now I go to my treasure chest, and I have my treasure chest script here, and I'm going to add my RPG item collection. And my item collection has an error in it. Oh, okay, so this get random item takes the thing there. So we'll need to fix this up in just a wee sec, which we will do. And you see that we have our adjectives, name sizes, all that kind of stuff inside here. I'm going to cheat a little bit, because rather than having to retype all that in there, I'm going to go back to my, where's my code in here? I'm going to go back and grab this here, and I'm going to cheat. I'm going to basically hard code these values in here inside the awake function. But this is just for quickness for this video, rather than watching me type all these things out again. So I'm going to say adjective equals that, item names equals that, endings equals that. Okay. So hopefully you followed that. That's just me being lazy. And I can get rid of these collections here. Okay, so this is my RPG item collection. Now I can have a number of collections inside my treasure chest. So I'm going to not do that in this video. I'll do that in a follow-up video. But I'm going to grab this RPG from item collection from this pickup here. So now I'm going to do require component. Actually, no, I don't want to require a component. I just want to grab a component. So I want to say var item collection equals get component RPG item collection. And I'll do a follow-up video about how to pick a random item collection from here. And then what I want to do is I then want to pass in this value here. So instead of doing item generator get random item, what I'm going to do is I'm going to specify item collection choose random item. What did I call it? Item collection. Oh yeah, I need to make it public, that's why. Pick random item. Pick random item, and then I'm going to pass in my function here. And my function is actually my actual method up here. So our get random item. Oops. Again, control not working. Okay, so that is looking good. So what do we have now? So hopefully, again, you're following this. So inside my random item generator, I no longer have any items, because I don't need any items, because I'm taking this in as a functional, taking it in as these parameters here. And for our item collection actually contains all these values here, and that's all it does. It just contains those items. So we're separating all of these things out. We're saying, okay, this is where the collection is, and this is where the things that we do the collection is, and we can have all these separate classes. And what it means though is we can actually test this a little bit better. But before we test it, we're going to run the program just to make sure we haven't broken anything. And make sure the game still runs, and we can go up to our box here, and then we can open it, and it should still say you picked up the irrational slacks of gambling goodness. Okay, so how does this help us test? Well, we can put anything in here now. We can actually make sure that we have something that always returns a particular value. So So instead of having get random item, what we can do is we can, let me just specify that out there. So the first thing is I need some kind of argument list. So I'm just going to call that A1, A2, and A3. And it's always going to return back this is a test. Oops. So that's my function, that's my test function. So now when I go into here and I run the game, I'm going to run up to here and I'm going to open the treasure chest, and it's going to say you picked up this is a test. And you can change that to anything you want. You can make it, you know, however many times you do that. So you could have that as a counter value. So you could say, you know, my counter dot to string. So if you had a variable there called my counter, you could then output that to the screen every time you open up a treasure chest. And so debugging these, I'll just put this back to where it was. Debugging this makes it a lot easier to, it makes it a lot easier to debug now that you can have instead of having a random item generator, you can just quickly put in a function in there that does something that you wanted to do, and our items are separated from the randomness generator. So the random item generator doesn't need to know about the collections, it just needs to get those collections passed in. And likewise, the actual items themselves, it doesn't need to know how to pick a random one. It just needs to know that when I call this function, I need to pass in objectives, item names, and endings. And then it somehow generates those values there. And you can do other things as well. So you can make it a little bit more complicated and say, instead of having this, let's say you want to do a debug version of this. So you could like make a copy of this, and then you could have inside your where is it, treasure chest pickup, instead of get random item, you might have something like A1, A2, A3, and then you pasted everything in there, and then that would be obviously objective, item name, and then ending. And then instead of capitalize, you might want to have something like time is it since level load dot to string plus these values here, and why that's, oh yeah, because I've got missing a plus there. I was wondering why. And so you can have this like complicated thing in there just to test it, so that you can find out when, you know, additional information, you can put that additional information up there rather than having to, you know, go to a class or a code and have to change it in there. And now you picked up it, and then it tells you that was 6.68 seconds into the game. So perfect. That's the kind of where you want to go. You want to separate your classes out as much as possible, and you can use delegates or functions to do that, to keep things all neat and separate. Hi guys, thank you very much for watching. This is part of the Video a Day in September 2017 videos. If you liked it or you didn't like it, hit the appropriate button below. Subscribe, so if you hit the little icon over there, then you'll get notified, especially when you hit the little alarm icon. That's the really important part apparently. Then you'll get notified when a new video goes up. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.